Test 1 2 3 4 5. Test 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 test. Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Garnet Sports Network. I'm Matt Fine with you. Some college baseball this afternoon. We've got a lot of baseball, actually, today between two teams finding success early on in conference play. Gettysburg is on the road at Clothier for 2 games against Swarthmore. Both teams are off to a nice start, 3-1 in the Centennial. For Swarthmore, Friday proved to be their biggest win of the season when they traveled down to Baltimore and picked up a huge win against the defending champs, 8-3, your final there. Gettysburg stumbled on Friday with a loss at McDaniel, or to McDaniel, really. They were home for that game, 11-5. This was the Bullets' first conference loss of the year. So we have 2 teams coming in at 3 wins and 1 loss. And after today, we could have a Centennial leader early in the season as both teams, the Bullets and the Garnet, trying to separate themselves from the pack a little bit. We'll play 2 games today, 9 innings each, so 18 innings of baseball for you this afternoon on what is turning out to be a pretty nice afternoon here in Swarthmore. After a ton of rain last night, and a lot of rain these last few days, actually, the field looks like it's in pretty good shape. We'll get things underway. For Gettysburg, go through the offensive lineup right now. Leading off with Kyle Miller, Matt Muir, the shortstop, will bat second. Captain, Tristan Niels, right fielder third. Andrew Decker in the cleanup spot. DH, Jack Pistner, David Prezioso, Mark Siebert, Preston Toothman, J.R. McCloskey, he will catch and bat number 9. On the mound, as we throw a first pitch this afternoon for Swarthmore, that is Ed Berry. Number 17 has a 3.68 ERA on the year, 1-2. This is his 7th appearance, all in a starting role for 29 1/3 innings. He's given up 27 hits, 12 earned runs, and 23 strikeouts compared to 14 walks. And he will try to go as deep as he can for Coach Mitgiff here in game number 1. As for Miller, he leads the Bullets with a .398 average on the season. Tops one, that's a tough one over to third base. Quick throw and a nice put out. That's Luke Mutz over to Silvestri for out number 1. So speaking of a nice defensive play, let me take you through the infield and outfield defensively for Coach Mitgiff. As I mentioned, Luke Mutz, the senior at third base. Max Rothwarg, freshman at the shortstop spot. Nate Jabara at second base. And Matt Silvestri at first. As we see Matt Muir, the senior shortstop, step in. First pitch swinging to right field, shallow. But a couple of nice defensive plays. We're now 2 for 2 with nice defensive plays. The first one from Mutz, that one from Paul Cook in right field. So 2 quick outs here in the top of the first. So let me take you through the outfield. You guys are leading me through the lineup today. This is perfect. In left field, Austin Burgess. In center, Kirk Terada-Herzer. And in right field, that was Paul Cook picking up the leather for out number 2. Catching for Ed Berry is Andrew Olson, number 5, the senior, behind the plate. And here is Tristan Niels. And Niels at a hole, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Niels batting .333 on the season. 21 hits and a 63 at bats. And that is strike number 3. Berry looks real good in inning number 1, and he gets some defensive help in the process. No runs, no hits, nobody left. We move to the bottom of the first. Swarthmore coming to bat. Welcome back to the bottom of the first inning. For the Garnet, offensively, here's Kirk Terada-Herzer, the center fielder, leading off, followed by the senior, Luke Mutz. Austin Burgess will bat third. Michael Seppi will be your designated hitter in the fourth spot. Matt Silvestri at first base batting fifth. Nate Jabara batting sixth. Paul Cook in right field, already made a nice play in right field. He will bat seventh. Max Rothwarg, who's been batting ninth most of the year, will move into the eighth spot. It was the same yesterday at Johns Hopkins. And Andrew Olson will be catching at number 9. And that is one out, 4-3 on the putout to start the bottom of the first. Toothman over to Siebert. Defensively for the Bullets, Andrew Decker at third. Matt Muir is the shortstop. Preston Toothman, who just made that play, the junior, is at second base. And he threw it over to Matt Siebert, the junior, at first base. In the outfield, David Prezioso in left. Kyle Miller in center. As a bunt is laid down very nicely, and no chance for a very speedy Luke Mutz. An infield single and a base runner for the Garnet. Tristan Niels, by the way, in right field. Jared McCloskey, who tried to pick up that bunt, is behind the plate. And we'll talk about the pitcher here in a second, Miles Burbank, the senior, number 37. So our first hit of the day goes 20 feet. As Mutz stands on first. 1 on, 1 out. And here's Burgess. Burgess batting a clean .300 on the year. 24 hits in his 80 at-bats. Leads the team in RBIs. One of the reasons he does that is because of the guy on first base. Mutz leads the team in runs with 29. So this is the combo here. For the pitcher, Miles Burbank, 6.55 ERA. No wins or losses to speak of this year. This is his 5th appearance, his 4th start. He's pitched 11 innings on the year. 9 runs, 8 earned. And his strikeout to walk ratio 2-1. 8 strikeouts compared to 4 walks. And with all the rain we had last night, it took about 3 minutes into the bottom of the first for Luke Mutz to need a new uniform. The field's in pretty good shape, but the dirt's heavy. It took a lot of rain just all around the field. Even with tarp, it still makes it pretty damp and pretty heavy. The 1-0. Nice pitch over for a called strike. And the count goes even at 1 ball and 1 strike. Burgess 1 for 4 yesterday in the win against Johns Hopkins. A couple of RBIs to speak of. Gettysburg ready for the speed that Swarthmore has to offer. 81 stolen bases on the year in just 91 attempts, and Mutz has 18 of them. He's 18 for 19. Oh, they caught him leaning the wrong way, just gets in. That's the 4th or 5th throw over in this at bat. And that's a close one, too. They thought they had him. First baseman Siebert and Burbank both thought that they had Mutz just leaning the wrong way. To give you an idea of how often Swarthmore steals, I mentioned the 81 or 91 steal attempts, 81 stolen bases. Compare that 91 attempts, and there's one down to second base, and after all those throwovers, Mutz does take second. So that is stolen base number 82 on the year for the team, 19 for Mutz. So we have a batter interference. So let me reset here because Mutz went down to second, but they called batter interference. So as a result, it goes south for Swarthmore pretty quickly as Burgess is out, and Mutz goes all the way back to first base.
Now batting number 45, Michael Seppi.
So instead of a runner at second base with 1 out, there's now a runner at first base with 2 outs, and here's Michael Seppi. So getting back to the speed, I really just want to finish that thought real quickly. So on the year, Swarthmore, 81 stolen bases in 91 attempts. Compare that to Gettysburg with 13 stolen bases in 19 attempts. So Swarthmore basically about a 6-to-1 ratio in terms of how often they steal compared to Gettysburg. Just gives you an idea of how much Coach Midkiff likes to run. Didn't work out there, obviously, with the batter interference, much to the chagrin of Coach Midkiff. And here's Seppi. They throw out. Seppi 1 for 4 yesterday as well, batting .316 this season. Two balls and 1 strike. That ball fouled away on the left side. Twos are wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 away here, bottom of the first. I think Burbank has thrown more balls over to first base than he has thrown home here in the bottom of the first. So the pitch count is one thing, but you won't see all the balls being thrown over to first as part of his stat line today. Here comes the 2-2, we hope. That one hit the other way pretty hard to left field, but with room, Prezioso for out number 3. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. We have played 1, no score. We're back top 2, no score between the Bullets and the Garnet here at Clothier Field. And it's still an early spring afternoon. It's chilly out there today. Sun coming in and out for the 4-hole hitter, the cleanup guy, and Andrew Decker. Decker 327 clip this season. Leads the team with 98 at-bats, not to mention 21 RBIs. And he takes one and heads down to first base. So not a hit yet today for the Bullets, but they get a base runner here in the top of the second. That's the second time this season that Decker's been hit by a pitch, which brings up the designated hitter, Jack Pissner. Number 1 is batting .380 this season. Good fastball on the inside part of the plate. Pissner in a hole, no balls and 2 strikes. To the freshman from Elliott City, Maryland. Pissner, the only freshman in the starting lineup today for Coach John Campo. Berry in his last outing pitched well last week, and I think the line score for him does not do justice to the way he pitched against Washington College last week. Went real deep into the game, 7 1/3. Didn't get the win. Gave up 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned. Struck out 4, walked 1, but he kept his team in it, gave his team a chance to win, and Swarthmore did that. They won both games last Saturday against Washington College. Berry pitching game 1. He has been the most consistent arm for this team so far this year. If there is a number 1 starter, he has that spot right now, generally pitching game 1 on Saturdays. 3 balls and 1 strike. Mutt's playing in a little bit on the edge of the grass. That fastball just catches enough of the plate. Cook very shallow in right field, which is what you tend to see here at Clothier. Burgess and Tirada Herzer, I wouldn't say they're playing shallow, but kind of mid-range in center and left. The 3-2 swing and a miss. And he comes back to get the K. Does Berry as Pissner sits down. That is strikeout number 2 this afternoon for Berry. With 1 away, a runner still at first. Here is the left fielder, David Prezioso. First pitch swinging in the foul territory and an easy out for Silvestri and 2 away. Here's the number 7 hitter, Mark Siebert, the junior first baseman. .325 this season. Leads the team in both doubles with 4 and triples with 4. Excuse me, doubles with 5, triples with 4. One of the harder hitters on this team as well. Slugging percentage is tops on the team at .532. And they're scouting. You know that Coach Midkiff is scouting because Burgess is now a good 20 feet farther in left field than he was 1 batter earlier. Tirada Herzer hasn't moved too much in center, although he shifts to his left a little bit now. And you still have Cook pretty shallow in right. Berry ahead, no balls and 2 strikes. Tries to get number 25 to chase high with a fastball, but he does not. Good pitch low in the zone. beats it foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes still with 2 away. Another fastball high. Both balls in this at bat have been fastballs right at the chin to the eyes. So we have a count we've seen already this inning, a 2 ball, 2 strike, 2 out. Excuse me, you saw that in the bottom of the last half of the inning. And that's when Burbank got out of the inning. Let's see if Barry does the same thing, and he does. That is strike number 3. A couple of strikeouts here in the top of the 2nd inning. There is 1 base runner, but nobody comes across. We move to the bottom of the 2nd, still no score. Welcome back. Bottom of the 2nd inning. No score here on the Garnet Sports Network. And we got the 3 big bats coming up. Silvestri, Jabara, and Cook. I mentioned the 3 big bats, numbers 5, 6, and 7, because all 3 went long yesterday in that win over Johns Hopkins. Each with 1 home run on the afternoon. For Silvestri, that was his 2nd home run of the season. Silvestri batting .316 this season. Burbank on the mound for his 2nd inning. Silvestri takes a pitch inside, just beats one into the ground. Right between the dugout and the 3rd base coach in Brian Booth. Fastball outside. Good location on a 1-2, but the count goes 2 balls and 2 strikes. The 2-2. And the count goes full. Some high heat out of the strike zone. Silvestri tries to rise to meet it and is struck out for out number 1 here in the bottom of the 2nd. First strikeout this afternoon for Burbank. And here's Nate Jabbar, as I mentioned, went deep yesterday in that win. Jabbar's home run, that was his 3rd of the season, batting .261 this year. Gets under one, fairly deep to left center field. Miller going back, and gone! Prezioso and Miller both converging. Neither could get it. Just barely did the ball get out of here. A solo shot, and Swarthmore on the board thanks to Nate Jabara, his 4th home run of the season. back-to-back games. He goes deep, once on Friday and once so far here on Saturday. Right near the 339 mark, to the right of that a little bit, somewhere between the 339 mark and the big G and garnet that you see in left center field. Wasn't sure that had enough to get out of here. Off the bat, it looked like maybe got under it a little bit too much. Another bunt so similar to the one that Mutz laid down in the first inning. And Paul Cook, who hit a home run yesterday, gets on base today with a ball that goes about 30 feet down the third base line. The second bunt for a hit today, and we're only in the second inning, as Decker's going to have to start pushing in at third. So after strikeout to lead the bottom of the second, a couple of base runners. Here's Max Rothwarg. Rothwarg, if you take away yesterday, he was 0 for 4 yesterday. He's been swinging a really nice bat as of late, 286 on the year. That includes yesterday. Had a nice weekend last weekend against Washington College. And unfortunately for Swarthmore, picked off at first is Paul Cook. And Midkiff is hot. 1-3 on the putout. So no one on first anymore, and that is out number 2. That pitch is over for a called strike. What they're upset about is that both Coach Booth and Coach Midkiff are unhappy about Miles Burbank and whether he got set when he picked off the runner at first base. And we have both teams chirping at each other in a big way right now. As Burbank walks off, nodding his head and looking at the dugout. And when I say he's looking at dugout, I say he's looking at Swarthmore's dugout. But let's take a breath here as we have now ended the second inning. One run does come across. We'll move to the top of the third, 1-0 in favor of Swarthmore. It did not take long for things to get heated here at Clothier as we move to the top of the third after a pickoff play in the bottom of the second, where Cook was picked off at first after he reached on a bunt. Swarthmore real upset, believing that Burbank, the pitcher for Gettysburg, did not stop. And there's an incredible play just off the plate at first, off the first base bag is Silvestri. And that is a hit. A great play at the shortstop spot, but unable to get Toothman, who gets down to first base. So a runner on. And this is number 9, that's Toothman on. This is number 9, J.O. McCloskey. First pitch swinging. This one gets by a diving Rothwarg into left field. So a couple of early base runners from the 8-9 spot. And we'll go back to the top of the order. This is number 6, Kyle Miller. Miller grounded out to third in a very nice play by Mutz to start the day. We'll get back to that, some of that trash talking as Burbank came off the mound in the bottom of the second after that pickoff play, and one more out after that. Kind of stared down the Swarthmore bench, the dugout. And Swarthmore saw it. There were a bunch of players over there that saw it. So we have 18 innings to play today, and we're already a little bit heated here in the second into the third. Usually you need to wait at least 4 or 5 innings for that kind of talk, right? The first 2 hits of the afternoon coming back-to-back from Toothman, who's at second, McCloskey at first. And here's Kyle Miller. Squares up to bunt. Nice bunt. This will at least move the runners. Jabbar over to first on the throw from Barry. So that's a sacrifice 1-4 on the putout. And now with Toothman at third, McCloskey at second. This is Matt Muir. 396 on the year. Among the league leaders in average. Muir leads the team with 36 hits. Coming into today, 26 runs as well. He's also walked 13 times. So you can imagine his on-base percentage is sky high, 477 for the senior. Gettysburg trying to even things up here. Takes a fastball at the hands on the inside part of the plate. He's in a hole, no balls and 2 strikes. Silvestri pinching up on the grass at first. Outfield playing straight away. The 0-2. Hit past the second baseman, diving Nate Jabbar. 1 run comes in, and with nobody out, John Campo holds his runner at third. So Toothman comes in to tie the game on the RBI single. Off the bat of Muir. And now with 1 out, runners at first and third. McCloskey was the one held up at third by Coach Campo. Here's Tristan Niels. Gettysburg can hit. 5 players generally in the starting lineup batting over 300. And that doesn't include Pistner, who's batting 380. Hasn't quite qualified for enough at-bats this season to move him into the league lead or with the league leaders, but he's getting there. Runner goes, a little hit and run as Muir takes off. Muir just 1 stolen base in the year. The lead on this team in terms of stolen bases is 3, so there's no one who really lights up the base path. Niels was 2 for 5 yesterday with an RBI in that loss to McDaniel. McDaniel over Gettysburg on Friday. So they split the week. McDaniel won the first game. That was on Tuesday, and then they traveled to Gettysburg on Friday. So 11-5 the final yesterday. 25 hits between the 2 teams over 9 innings. One ball, 2 strikes. Goes up to get one. Popped into shallow center. We'll see if we have a play at home. Testing the arm. And it's a good test. The play at home. Not in time. And a sacrifice fly for Niels. As Terada Herzer threw it halfway home. And the relay was not in time. So a second run comes across. That's McCloskey. So a sacrifice and an RBI for Niels, and this brings up Decker. 2-1 now in favor of the Bullets. Just a runner at first. First pitch on the hands for a ball. The 1-0. Fastball finds part of the plate. Count goes even, 1 ball and 1 strike. One ball and 2 strikes to Decker, the senior.
There's a camera woman for Gettysburg. That's what they're talking about. Are we right outfield?
Runner at first. Count in favor of Barry on the mound. He's given up a couple of runs here, trying to get out of the third against the 4-hitter. But we'll see at least one more pitch. Another 2-2-2 situation. We've already seen it a couple of times today. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 away. Decker does have 1 home run on the year. And that is strike number 3. A backwards K, but some damage done. Gettysburg puts up a crooked number. 2 runs on 3 hits. They leave 1. We move to the bottom of the third. Swarthmore coming from behind now, down 2-1. We're back, bottom of the third. 2 runs, top of the third for Gettysburg. So Swarthmore playing from behind for the first time this afternoon. Down 2-1.
Leading off for the Garnet, number 5, Andrew Olson.
We'll see 9, 1, and 2. Start off with Olson, Andrew Olson. And we'll go back to Kirk Terada Herzer and Luke Mutz. Olson did not catch yesterday, gets the start today. And he picks up a single. A hard hit ball to the left side for Olson. And a leadoff base runner here in the third. We go back to the top of the order for Kirk Terada Herzer.
Now batting number 11, Kirk Terada Herzer.
Herzer was 0 for 4 yesterday in the leadoff spot against the Blue Jays of Johns Hopkins. He's batting .214 this season. This is already, by the way, his 100th at bat officially, short of being walked, of course, or something odd. If he strikes the ball, it'll be officially bat 100. As I say that, he looks like he's squaring up the bunt. In comes Decker. He pulls back just in time for ball number 1. And they're ready for it. They're crashing. It's an interesting crash here. You have Decker pushing in from third, Siebert pushing in from first, Toothman coming all the way around from second base to first, which forces the shortstop, obviously Muir, to check at second base. So it's a complete shift on the right side of the infield. He's ahead now, 2 balls and no strikes with that runner at first. Squares with the bunt again, goes back, and down the second. An interesting play, safe at second. The throw down from McCloskey to Siebert. Siebert did a little swipe tag at first, but there was nobody there, and by the time he realized that Olson was on his way to second base, instead of being caught in a pickle, Olson picks up a stolen base. Down the second he goes, and a 3-0 count. So that could have turned out real bad for Swarthmore there. We've already seen one pickoff play that got everybody heated in the bottom of the second inning when Cook got picked off at first. Squaring up the bunt one more time. This time it goes 3 balls and 1 strike. The question we had in the bottom of the second was Burbank's motion being stopped. You know the umps are looking at it now. And he is stopping his motion there. This one popped up. Unfortunate play for Swarthmore and an easy out, number 1, as Terada Herzer unable to move the runner to third base in that situation. So that's out number 1. This brings up Luke Mutz. Mutz picked up a hit in his first at bat on a bunt play, a beautiful bunt down the third base line. Had second base stolen, but was told to go back to first after a batter interference. This one inside out to left field. Coming in to get that one is Prezioso, and that is out number 2. It's kind of off the hands. So Mutz sits down, and now it's Austin Burgess' chance to see if he can bring in a runner with some 2-out magic. Burgess was the one that was called for batter interference that ended what looked to be a promising bottom of the first. Didn't really end it, but it thwarted it in many ways in the bottom of the first. So Olson's leadoff single, it's gotten to second base, but no farther as of right now. Again, Burgess 1 for 4 yesterday. Came into today batting .300. Also one of the more patient batters on this team. 16 walks on the year. He's behind here 0-1 though. Off speed, and he's in a hole, no balls and 2 strikes. We have Michael Seppi on deck, number 45 waiting. Oh, 2. It's McCloskey. Sam well off the plate. comes the 1-2, and that got him on the hand. And that's going to hurt. The question is that considered a strike, or is he going down the first? What's the call? They haven't made a call yet. I guess first you got to make a call, and then you got to decide whether it's the right one, I guess, right? But they haven't made a call at all. And he's coming out, it looks like. So 1 ball, the count was 1-2. Burgess took a shot on the hand. And I still haven't seen where they've decided what to do with him. Is he just getting treatment, then he'll go down the first? Or are they subbing him out? The Phillies know exactly what it's like to lose someone to a pitch right on the hand, as they lost their center fielder. You can easily break a bone there. So it looks like he's getting treatment, or they would have brought somebody out already. So it looks like it's a hit batter and a runner at first. So if you can see on the left, you can't see us on the left side of your screen, but right now the trainer is with Burgess, tending to his hand. It's his right hand. And they're kind of putting a bandage on there. I'm not sure. Actually, it looks like there's a possibility maybe it just cut him and there's some blood there, because they're putting a bandage on it that looks like a glorified Band-Aid. But now they're wrapping it all around his hand. So we'll have to see. He seems like he's okay. My guess is that obviously he's going to scamper down the first after they fix the issue with that right hand. You can easily break a small bone in there, but he looks like he's fine. So that's a very good thing. You don't want to lose your left fielder, your number 3 hitter. So Burgess goes down to first. So officially hit by pitch. So Burgess having an interesting afternoon. Got called for batter interference in the first, hit by pitch here in the third. And with runners at first and second, Michael Seppi for ball number 1. Remember, by the way, Burgess was 0-2 on that at bat, so he came back to find his way on to first base. Still 2 outs. Seppi flew out to left field in his first at bat. Seppi 327 this season. He's got 18 hits in his 55 at bats. Of course, Gettysburg definitely has a scouting report on Swarthmore, as Burbank is paying all sorts of attention to everybody who's reached base today. It was a marathon back in the first when Mutz was at first. He threw over to first base, maybe double digits. The 2-1. That one just misses. Good eye by Seppi. He's ahead of the count, 3 balls and 1 strike. So a couple of good fights here as McCloskey gives signs. Burgess battling back from 0-2, and now Seppi in a 3-1 trying to find his way onto first base. One more ball that would load the bases. 3-1. Gets under one to left side. In foul territory, but in play. And looks like no one was able to get that one. Couldn't tell for a second from my angle, so that's why I held up there. But Decker unable to reel that one in. So some new life for Seppi. Now 3 balls and 2 strikes, and with 2 outs, the runners will be off. Anything to the outfield will easily score Olson as he takes off on the pitch. Big early moment in this game. The 3-2. Shallow center field coming in. Miller coming out from left field. It's Prezioso and makes the out. That was adventurous between Prezioso and Miller, but it is out number 3, and down goes Swarthmore here in the bottom of the 3rd. The Garnet pick up 1 hit, but nobody comes across. 2-1 in favor of Gettysburg after 3. We're back, top 4, 2-1 in favor of the visitors. The Bullets with 2 runs on 3 hits, no errors. Swarthmore 1 run on 4 hits and no errors. And I can feel comfortable in guaranteeing that there's no way this game will end this way. But Gettysburg with a 2-1 lead early on as we move to 5, 6, and 7. First pitch from Barry to Pissner, who struck out in his first at-bat. 4 strikeouts already today for Barry. He glided through the first 2 innings, got in a little bit of trouble in the 3rd. Gave up a couple of singles to lead off the top of the 3rd. Two-0. Fastball in for a strike. 2 balls and 1 strike to the freshman designated hitter for Coach Campo. Unlike Swarthmore last year, Gettysburg did play its season. So some of these sophomores and juniors on the team have seen more action than you would expect a Swarthmore team to have seen. As Pissner goes down, strikeout number 2 on the day for the freshman designated hitter. Strikeout number 5 this afternoon for Barry already, with 1 out here in the 4th. Here's Prezioso, picked up a nice out in the bottom of the 3rd to end that inning out in left field. Number 10 is a sophomore from Middletown, Delaware. Barry's fastball looks pretty good today. He's finding pretty good location on his fastball. Looking to see if they have the gun on him. I don't have the speed on it, but I was hoping that a couple of Swarthmore pitchers would be coming in and marking down some speeds for me, but nobody here yet. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And that is strike number 3. 2 strikeouts here in the 4th, both with heat. Barry has picked up a strikeout in each of the first 4 innings. He struck out 1 in the first, 2 in the second, 1 in the 3rd, and now 2 here in the 4th. So an interesting moment here. Usually you don't see this. If you see all the players kind of turn and stand, I'll quiet down for a second. I'll explain in a second. So for the second time today, we stand for the national anthem. That one coming from the lacrosse game, which if you've never been to Clothier, it's right behind the baseball field. It kind of, if you're walking down the first base side, you just make a hard right and go down a little bit of a hill. It's right behind us. And as they're getting ready for a lacrosse game down there, they played the national anthem. As this ball is hit, one pitch right over to Cook for out number 3. I'll explain what's going on here when we get back to the bottom of the 4th. But for now, no runs, no hits, nobody left. We move to the bottom of the 4th, a 2-1 ball game in favor of the Bullets. Welcome back to the bottom of the 4th, where we will see numbers 5, 6, and 7 for Swarthmore. Wrapping up the story I was telling you, what just happened here in the top of the 4th. So the men's lacrosse taking on Gettysburg right behind us, and it was funny because they were getting ready for their game. It's a 1 o'clock start time there, and they were playing the national anthem, and all of a sudden Ed Berry stepped off the mound, took his hat off when everybody was ready to play, to stand for the national anthem. And then everybody realized, it took a second, but almost everybody realized what was going on. And then everybody on the field took off their hats and they stood for the national anthem. People in front of me in the stands did the exact same thing. So for a second time today, we stood for the national anthem, once for the baseball game and another time we did it for the lacrosse game behind us. And that was your delay in the top of the 4th. And then one pitch later, Swarthmore gets out of the inning. So in the bottom of the 4th, for the Garnet, we got 5, 6, and 7. Matt Silvestri, Nate Jabara, and Paul Cook. Silvestri struck out in his first at-bat. Silvestri, one of the 3 batters yesterday in Johns Hopkins, or against Johns Hopkins, to go deep. Silvestri went deep, Jabara went deep, and Paul Cook went deep. Jabara already has gone deep today. 1-2 tops it to the left side. Scooped up by Decker in the dirt and safe at first. That will be your first error of the afternoon, an E5 and a leadoff runner for Swarthmore. Back-to-back innings, they're able to pick up that lead runner. For Jabara, who has the fireworks so far this afternoon for the Garnet. Took one deep over the left center field fence. A solo home run. That was one of those home runs. It was close, trying to get over that big wall that stretches from left center all the way into center field. And it just got over. We've done this dance before with the throw over to first base. Silvestri, I mentioned all the speed that Swarthmore has. This one's right on my head, right in front of us. I mentioned all the speed that Swarthmore has. Silvestri, not one of them on the year. He's got a couple of stolen bases. So I'm not sure how much we'll see Burbank throw over there. It seems to be just a reaction from the pitcher. Watch as I say that, you'll see Silvestri just take off. Not taking a big lead, we'll see a secondary on an 0-2. Not much of a secondary. This one hits softly enough, it won't allow for a double play. It does move up the runner. So Muir throws over 6-3 on the putout. It does allow Silvestri to move into scoring position. And here's Paul Cook. Cook led to some fireworks as well. Singled in the second inning, picked off at first on a play that got the Swarthmore bench hot. So great atmosphere here today. You're going to hear all sorts of just screaming down at the lacrosse field. Lacrosse in the springtime, soccer there in the fall. An 0-1 count here. This ball in the dirt, it pushes McCloskey towards third, so with 2 outs, really nowhere for Silvestri to go, so he stays put. The sun is out at Clothier. Not a bad afternoon. When the sun's out, it's pretty nice here. Looking over at the bullpen, not the bullpen, excuse me, the bench for the dugout area for Swarthmore to my left. And the trainers are still working on Burgess in his hand as he got clipped in the last half of the inning. Didn't go out, but they're working on it. Little high heat. Good job by Cook to lay off that one. Cook came in batting .351 this season. Tied for the team lead with 7 doubles. Gets under this one and foul. Two balls and two strikes. A runner in scoring position with 1 away. Cook waits on that one nicely and fouls it back. Nice long at bat here. As Cook trying to work the pitch count for Burbank. Burbank from Rye, New York. A senior, 6'1", 200 pounds. The 2-2. Strike number 3. Cook might have been looking for something that he did not get. And a backwards K, the first strikeout looking this afternoon for Burbank. Strikeout number 3 overall. And here's Max Ruffwarg looking for some 2-out magic. He was one of the other strikeouts this afternoon. K'd in his first at bat in the second inning. There's a fastball. Swarthmore trying to make the error here in the 4th hurt. It's the first error this afternoon in E5. Put Silvestri on. He stands on second right now. One and one. timeout, something it looks like maybe flown into Max's eye as he takes a second. You're 1-1 outside the zone. Two-one. Good pitch right at the knees, fouled away. So I feel like I've been mentioning this every single inning today. I'm sure it's not every half inning, but it feels like it. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. We've seen this count several times today. Another foul ball. A couple of long at-bats here. The previous at-bat, Paul Cook went deep into the count with a couple of foul balls as well. Ended up losing the battle. Might have won or lost the war. Might have won a couple of battles along the way, but struck out looking as he drives that pitch count up. Rothwag doing the same thing here. Waits on that one real nicely and fouls it off again. That was a good pitch. Some good off speed coming in. You have a senior throwing to a junior, plenty of experience. The entire infield, all juniors and seniors. This one's bounced to the left side, scooped up and over for out number 3. That'll do it for Swarthmore, bottom of the 4th. No runs, no hits. 1 left. We have played 4, still 2-1 in favor of the Bullets. Welcome back to the top of the 5th. For Gettysburg, we'll go 8, 9, and 1. Barry still on the mound in his 5th inning. This is Preston Toothman. That moves the count to 1 ball, 1 strike. Toothman singled and scored. One of those 2 runs in the 3rd. This one popped up right side, shallow right field. Paul Cook there for out number 1. So here comes Jared McCloskey, the number 9 batter in this lineup, catcher. McCloskey also singled to left field and scored. First pitch over the left side one more time, but this time scooped up an easy play. 5-3 on the putout. So the 8-9 batters did all sorts of damage in the third, but they go down quietly here in the fifth as we move back to the top of the order. Kyle Miller, quality at bat in the third, picked up a sac bunt that moved over a couple of runners. He also grounded out to third on a nice play by Mutz that started the game. Here comes the 1-1. This one tapped fair, and out number 3, a quick fifth inning after a quick fourth inning for Barry. We're halfway through game number 1, move to the bottom of the fifth, still 2-1 in favor of Gettysburg. Bottom 5, we will see numbers 9, 1, and 2. Thank you for joining us on a pretty nice afternoon here on the campus of Swarthmore. Matt Fine on the Garnet Sports Network. Centennial Conference matchup between two of the better teams in the conference early in the year. Gettysburg coming in at 3-1, Swarthmore coming in at 3-1. This one hit hard over the mitt of Toothman into right center field. And for the second time today, Olson leads off an inning with a hit. He did it in the third. He was stranded at second. Let's see how it works this time in the fifth inning. So Olson, 2 for 2. We're back to the top of the order. Tirada Herzer. Now, last time they were in this situation, Tirada Herzer squared for a bunt to try to move Olson, and he popped the ball up on the bunt play, and Burbank was right there for out number 1. We'll see if they do that again. We do have a runner, the fielder and Decker pushing in at third, so they were waiting for it as Tirada Herzer pulls back for ball number 1. So Tirada Herzer couldn't get it done in the third. They'll give him another shot here in the fifth. Does square up this time, and that's a much better job. A tough bunt up the first base line, and he is out at first. So good sacrifice this time around as he got the ball down. This moves Olson to second. Tying run now in scoring position, just 1 out. Speaking of bunt, Luke Mutz, 1 for 2 today with a bunt single.
Number 7, Luke Mott.
Tops one to the right side on the first pitch. That will be out number 2. It does move the runner to third, so now a tying run 90 feet away, but 2 outs here. And here's Austin Burgess. We'll see how he swings the bat this time. This will be his first at bat since he took a pitch on the hand.
Austin Burgess.
I believe it was that front hand, I want to say. I take that back. I believe he got hit. They were putting tape, I think, on the right hand, so it might have been the backhand. It's hard to tell, obviously, with his batting gloves on. He takes a strike and nods at it. 1 ball, 1 strike. To the left side. In the dirt, picked by Siebert for out number 3. For a third straight inning, Swarthmore puts a leadoff runner on, but for a third straight inning, they're unable to put one across. We have played 5. The Garnet's still trailing 2-1. We're back now, top of the 6th inning. Matt Fine on the Garnet Sports Network. Got a good one here. We've seen plenty of high-scoring affairs this season. This time we have a pitcher's duel with Ed Berry for Swarthmore and Miles Burbank for the Bullets. In the top of the 6th, we'll see 2, 3, and 4. It starts off with one of the more senior players for Coach Campo. He is a captain, Matt Muir, a 4-year starter, starting shortstop. One for 2 on the day is Muir. From southeastern Massachusetts, 5'11". Goes fishing for that one. Muir has been one of the league leaders in average all season long, flirting with that 400 number. The 1-2, hard hit ball. Took a little bit of an odd bounce, but a nice play over to first as Silvestri holds on to first with the throw from Luke Mutz, and that is out number 1. This brings up Tristan Neals. Officially 0 for 1, had a sacrifice that brought in a run in the 3rd inning. Looks bunt. Commits. No balls and 1 strike. Lots of games around the Centennial today. Got a good one here, as I mentioned. Muhlenberg is taking on Franklin and Marshall. 2-1 there in the bottom of the 5th inning. Hopkins on the road after that loss on Friday to Swarthmore. That's 3-1. They are at Dickinson. That game also in the 5th inning. We have our score here. The rest of the games at 3 o'clock start times. It'll be Muhlenberg and Franklin and Marshall in game 2 of that doubleheader. Johns Hopkins will also pick up game number 2 against Dickinson in the second game of doubleheader, and this one will be the final game of the afternoon, a doubleheader here as well. So 3 games or 3 matchups, 3 fields busy this afternoon in the Centennial, all doubleheaders, one at Franklin and Marshall, one at Dickinson, and the one here at Swarthmore. And we have out number 2, by the way, as Niels goes down. Here's Andrew Decker. Decker inside out over to second base. And for a 3rd straight inning, Barry gets a 1-2-3. All ground outs. So all the different spots on the infield. The first one to the 3rd baseman, the second one to the shortstop, and this one to the 2nd baseman. We move to the bottom of the 6th, 2-1. Bottom of the 6th. We'll see numbers 4, 5, and 6. We'll start off with Michael Seppi. Then we'll go to Silvestri and Jabara. Seppi 0 for 2. Flew out to left and left center field already today. If you look at the standings right now, Franklin and Marshall is the only team left in the Centennial with a perfect record at 3-0. And then we have 3 teams bunched at 3-1. Haverford's 3-1, Gettysburg 3-1, and Swarthmore 3-1. Dickinson sits at 2-1. Hopkins at 500, 2-2. And then the bottom 4, Ursinus, McDaniel with 1 win so far this season, as that ball's hit pretty well to center field, back up against the wall. That ball was hit a long way, but Miller is there right near the 377 sign for out number 1. And here is Matt Silvestri. So McDaniel and Muhlenberg, or excuse me, Ursinus and McDaniel at 1 win so far this year. Muhlenberg and Washington College, the only 2 teams still searching for that first win. And time is running out for those 2 teams. Not easy to make the playoffs in the Centennial. Out of the 10 teams, only 4 make it. Haverford College, one of the hotter teams right now, on a 3-game win streak. Another ball hit hard to right field. Going back and over the head of Niels. This one goes all the way to the fence. Being waved to third. We have a play at third. And safe at third. Good call from the third base coach and Brian Booth. As Silvestri lumbering around second. And comes in at third for a triple, a 1-out triple. The tying run now just 90 feet away. Silvestri reached on an error in the 4th inning and made it all the way to 2nd. This time does it all himself with that triple that just got over Neal's head. For a second, it looked like Neal might have had a beat on it, but that ball just kept on carrying. So Nate Jabbar here looking to tie things up, takes a strike. First triple of the year for Silvestri, his 6th extra base hit of the year. Got some doubles and a couple of home runs. And this one's straight back. It's now Jabbar on a whole no balls and 2 strikes. He's got one job here. He's got to get that runner in. The tying run as we're heading towards the late innings at Clothier. Siebert well up on the grass at first. Another good fight. That ball goes straight back. So the count remains no balls and 2 strikes. The 0-2, swing and a miss. That's a big strikeout for Burbank. He tries to get out of this jam. Strikeout number 4 this afternoon for the senior. And we're going to have a stop for the first trip to the mound this afternoon. I believe for either team, if I remember correctly. This is Justin Perry coming out to talk with his hurler. I mentioned Coach Campo is the 3rd base coach. We have Dennis Burmeister. He is the 1st base coach. And you'll see Perry come out. When Perry comes out, it generally is the case with many situations and many teams. When he comes out to talk, it's not for a pitching change. If there's going to be a pitching change, you'll see Campo generally come out. So here's Cook. Cook officially 1 for 2 this afternoon. Struck out in his last at bat. That runner at 3rd, as Cook pulls back for a ball. Silvestri standing on 3rd after a triple to right field. Burbank working around 6 hits so far today. Another setup for a bunt. And they said Cook offered at that, and that evens up the count at 1 ball and 1 strike. Because of that, you have Decker at 3rd, Siebert at 1st pushing in. That fastball outside the zone. There's 2 outs, obviously, so anything Cook puts down, it's got to be in a hit situation. The 2-1 looks for a bunt and offers again. And as we've seen so many times this afternoon, we're 2 balls and 2 strikes with 2 away. A healthy dose of fastballs for Miles Burbank here. Another fastball, this time in the dirt. Good play by McCloskey. Especially with that runner at 3rd, you got to be really careful. This does load up the count at 3 balls and 2 strikes. This ball hit a ton to right field, deep, back, and off the wall for a stand-up double. Off the bat, Cook was celebrating a little bit too much. He thought that ball was gone, did the whole bat flip. Good enough to tie up the game with a stand-up double as Silvestri scores. And I tell you, off the bat, that ball looked like it was going to be well out of here. I thought the conversation was going to be, would it stay fair or not? But it kind of nestled up right at the fence where it meets the grass. And that ties up the game. And it looks to me like we've got a pitching change here. As Coach Campo comes out, and we have exactly that. So we'll reset, take a quick break. But Swarthmore has tied it up. It's 2-2 now to Clothier. Coming right back. We're back with number 11 on the mound. Miles Burbank steps down in place of Brett Layton. And here's Max Rothwarg. Layton 1-3 this season, 8.79 ERA. And he got him right on the edge of the shoulder. One pitch, a fastball high and tight, and a base runner. And this goes to the 9-hitter now, who is the hottest hitter this afternoon in a lot of ways for the Garnet. Andrew Olson, 2 for 2. A single to left field and a single to right field. This time, Layton takes a little bit off and finds his first strike. Rothwarg, the second batter, has been hit today by Gettysburg pitchers. This one hit over to the shortstop and goes across instead of the force at second, gets the play at first, and that will do it for Swarthmore here in the bottom of the sixth, but they do tie it up. A triple by Silvestri. He is brought in on a double by Cook. 2-2 as we move to the seventh. We're back. We got a pinch hitter in as we move to the top of the seventh. This is number 20, Aaron Kirby. So he's pinch hitting for Pistner in the designated hitter spot, the 5-hole. Kirby's a junior, 5'9", from Sandy Hook, Connecticut. He's batting .380 on the season. Excuse me, he's batting .296 on the season. 16 hits and 54 at-bats. Making an appearance in his 17th game of the year. And welcome to the game as he takes a seat on some high heat from Ed Berry. Since we've been talking about the game behind us, that men's lacrosse game on campus, I thought I'd give you an update as it's a big one. This ball's hit right up the middle, and a leadoff single for Kirby. 5-5 right now. Swarthmore is taking on Gettysburg. And Gettysburg, the men's lacrosse team, they're ranked 11th in the nation, so this is a good one right behind us as well. So 2 schools playing on 2 different fields here at Swarthmore. As Kirby stands on first. This brings up number 10, Prezioso, the left fielder, 0 for 2. Popped up in the foul territory in his first at-bat, struck out in the 4th. A bunt hard over to the pitcher. Might have had time to go over to second. But Barry never looked at it. His momentum was bringing him towards first. I think he had enough time to make that turn. Rothwag was standing on second base ready, but the sack does work as it turns out. So Kirby now stands at second. 1-3 on the put out. And here's Mark Siebert. Number 25, 0 for 2. This base runner, by the way, when Kirby hit one up the middle, this is the first base runner for Gettysburg dating back to the 3rd inning. Barry went 1, 2, 3 in the 4th, in the 5th, and again in the 6th. This one gets away, but a nice block. Keeps it in front of him, does Olson. And that's a big play. When it's a 2-2 ball game, you get Kirby over to third with less than 2 outs. It changes everything. Right now, I think they're happy with him just standing at second base, obviously, as Swarthmore. A couple of single runs put up by the Garnet, one in the 2nd inning, one in the 6th. A 2 spot for Gettysburg in the 3rd, and that's all we've got. And it's a 2-2 ball game. 2 runs, 4 hits, 1 error for the visitors. And for Swarthmore, 2 runs on 7 hits. They've played clean in the field so far. And this is a 3-0 coming at you. That pitch just misses for ball number 4. This is the first walk of the afternoon for Barry. Siebert's at first now. Kirby is at second. Toothman stands in, 1 for 2. Singled and scored in that 2-run 3rd. 73 pitches so far for Barry. As I mentioned, that's the first walk. 6 strikeouts. You have Toothman all over the plate. He backs up on that fastball and still caught a strike. Comes the 0-1. By the way, the line on Burbank, as he came out in the 6th inning, he pitched 5 2/3. He gave up 2 runs, both earned, 7 hits, struck out 4, and didn't walk a batter through 87 pitches. So Burbank with a pretty nice outing. Not in a position to get a decision, but a nice outing nonetheless for Coach Campo. The 0-2 fouled away. Big moment in this game. A couple of runners on in a tie ball game, 1 out. And Toothman doing a real nice job of fouling off some pitches. We've seen this a bunch of times today, but for both teams, figuring out ways to extend at-bats. And that was a ball, too, but it was borderline, so you see Toothman going after it. The junior from Florida looking to stay alive on 0-2. That pitch just misses. That's a great location for an 0-2 pitch. You had Olsen off the plate a bit, or at least on the outside of the plate, but his mitt did not move, and that's a pitch that the pitcher will get a lot when the catcher doesn't move his mitt a bit. But now we're 1-2, and that one misses inside. So a pitch misses outside, a pitch misses inside, and we're at 2-2. Here comes the 2-2 in the dirt. Nice block by Olsen. So Toothman coming all the way back from 0-2, now 3-2. And again, a big pitch here. A walk would load the bases. It'll move a runner to third with less than 2 outs in a tie ball game. So Berry's going to have to come right at him. Does not want to load the bases here. He does. Nice bouncer. Stepping back 6-4. And the ball goes over the head of Silvestri. Now there's going to be a discussion whether the ball went out of play. The ball went out of play. The runner from third will score. And onto the field comes Coach Midkiff. So we definitely have an out at second. That's the easy one. We have an overthrow from Jabbar. So the question is, does the runner at third score? Does Kirby score? And the umpire says yes. So Kirby comes in on the E4. And also Siebert out at second. Toothman now stands at second. And we have a 3-2 ball game. So 6-4 on the putout. An E4 allows Toothman to take first and then second base. He does pick up an RBI, by the way. No, excuse me, he does not pick up an RBI as a result of the errors. But it does come back with a strike here. So a 3-2 ball game now in favor of Gettysburg, with Kirby scoring. And this is number 17, Jared McCloskey, who's 1 for 2. Swarthmore tied the game in the bottom of the 6th. Gettysburg comes right back and regains the lead here in the top of the 7th. So it's a 3-2 ball game. Probably an unfortunate throw from Jabbar. I don't think he had any real chance of getting that out at first. That ball just took too long to get to Rothwark. Rothwark turned the ball real nice over to Jabbar at second base to get that force out with Siebert. But anytime you see a Shortstop back up a little bit like Rothwark had to do, especially on grass. That's a tough one to turn. That error, the first of the day, and it's a costly one. This one popped up in the infield, an easy put out for Mutz, but the lead's taken back by the visiting team on a hit, a run, and we stretch. Move into the bottom of the 7th, 3-2 in favor of Gettysburg. Bottom of the 7th, late innings here in game number 1. Matt Fide on the Garnet Sports Network. We're playing 2 today, and we got a good one here. A lot of good pitching in this game. Start with Burbank for Gettysburg, and now Layton in relief. And we see 1, 2, and 3. Terada Herzer, Mutz, and Burgess. And Terada Herzer takes one inside out. And a leadoff runner. We've seen this a lot this afternoon. A leadoff runner for Swarthmore, but they haven't been able to do much with it. First hit of the day for Terada Herzer. Last 2 times he'd been up before this, he was sent up there to put together a sacrifice bunt. He did it once and didn't do it the other time, but either way, it didn't score runs. So here's Luke Mutz. We have Decker pushed in pretty far on the third base side, looking for a possible bunt. We've seen the small ball all afternoon long. Mutz does not square and takes a strike. Now he squares up to bunt, pulls back, and evens up the count. 1 ball, 1 strike. Getting a sign from the third base coach and Brian Booth. This one is down and over to first. So the tying run now in scoring position with 1 away. So we've seen Terada Herzer with a sacrifice today, Mutz with a sacrifice today. And here's Austin Burgess.
Now batting number 2 process, Burgess.
Burgess officially 0 for 2. He was put out back in the first on batter's interference. He also got hit by a pitch and takes one tight there. He's already gotten hit in the hand today. Takes one tight and also grounded out. So Burgess is definitely due. I'm sure after the day he's had, he would love to poke one through that right side. There's a lot of room between Toothman and Siebert on the right side right now as they try to keep a runner on second. And another fastball tight. So after a couple of pitches well out of the zone, both riding up fastballs on number 2, we'll have a discussion on the mound. Burgess had a hit yesterday against Johns Hopkins, a couple of RBIs. Huge win for Swarthmore yesterday. Coach Mitkiff's first ever win in Baltimore against Johns Hopkins. First ever win at Hopkins. They won 8-3. Led most of the way, not all the way. It was tied at 2-2. They didn't trail at any point. 2 balls, no strikes. That fastball is on the outside part of the plate. Sun coming back out.
3-2 Gettysburg, bottom of the 7th.
Here's the 2-1. That one curves in for a strike. Just catches the inside part of the plate. So counts even, 2 balls, 2 strikes. And some heat right past Burgess. Saw a lot of fastballs in that at bat. And Layton wins the battle. So at 2 outs now, they're looking for some magic from Michael Seppi. It's the first strikeout of the afternoon for Layton.
45, Michael Seppi.
Seppi's due 0 for 3. He has flown out 3 times, twice to left and once to center. Here comes the 0-1. This one bounced to the first base side. An easy put out unassisted by Siebert. And Layton gets out of the mini jam here in the bottom of the 7th. A leadoff runner wasted again by the Garnet. We have played 7, 3-2 in favor of the Bullets. We're moving to the top of the 8th here on the Garnet Sports Network. And not only the top of the 8th, but the top of the order for the Bullets. We'll see Miller, Muir, and Niels. First pitch. Bobbled for half a second and really never got a good grip on the ball was Mutz. You saw it kind of hit the top of his mitt, and then he grabbed the ball and never had a good handle on the ball. and soared over Silvestri's head. So we saw some really good fielding by Swarthmore for the better part of this game, but came a little bit undone in the 7th with an error by Jabbar, and now here we lead off the 8th with an error from Mutz. And here's Muir. Muir 1 for 3. Not the biggest lead for Miller, who does have 3 stolen bases this season, which actually is tied for the team lead. Update you with some scores. Muhlenberg trailing Franklin and Marshall in the bottom of the 7th, 3-2. Johns Hopkins 5-1 over Dickinson. That game also in the 7th. And then we have our game here, Gettysburg and Swarthmore. Your Science and Washington College don't play today. They will match up a couple of times tomorrow. Muir pulls back just in time. Muir's the guy who went up there. Came into today betting close to 400. 36 hits already. He's also got a real nice eye. Leads the team in walks with 13. He's ahead here. Takes one on the hands a little bit, unable to put it down. A lot of small ball today between these two teams. Offensively, Gettysburg is one of the better teams in the league in terms of its average and runs scored, but doesn't hit a lot of home runs, doesn't really run too much in terms of stolen bases. They just manufacture runs somehow. If you want to compare it, coming into today, Gettysburg had 4 home runs on the year, compared to Swarthmore's 15, and Swarthmore does have a home run today, so make that 16. And here's a 2-2. A 2-2, laying down a bunt with 2 strikes. You don't see that too often. It does work out. How about that? Bunt was hard enough. You would think the infield would be back, but it was hard enough to get over to Barry for out number 1. Miller does move up to second on the sacrifice. 1-3 on the putout. So you see something new today. Don't see a sacrifice bunt too often with 2 strikes. That's unusual, but this brings up Tristan Niels. Speaking of sacrifice, number 8 does have one today. He's officially 0 for 2. Fouls one straight back. Still have a real tight lacrosse game, by the way, in the 3rd. It's a 6-6 game between Swarthmore and nationally ranked Gettysburg. This one just getting foul. Mutz was there, and you had Rothwar covering 3rd on that. But they come back with Niels in a hole. No balls and 2 strikes. Remember, this is just game 1 of 2 this afternoon. We're doing 9 now, and if that's not enough for you, we'll do 9 again about 25 minutes after game 1 ends. The 0-2 popped up. Foul in play. Nice effort by Olson, but not able to get there. Right up against the netting and the fence. So Niels hanging in there in this at bat. We're doing the 0-2 again. And that is strike number 3. Berry wins the battle there. Some high heat. So Niels sits down, and here comes Decker. Seventh strikeout this afternoon for Berry. First pitch, a fastball to Decker. He's one of those strikeouts today, looking back in the third. Also hit by a pitch and grounded out. That got a little scary for half a second there, didn't it? As that ball goes in the center field, but everybody's doing okay. And as the runner remains, that's Miller at second. In case you're wondering, by the way, Berry 1 strikeout away from matching his season high. He had 8 strikeouts and a win over Montclair State back on the 19th of March. He did that in 6 innings of work. This one, right at the second baseman, Jabbar for out number 3. Berry's still looking real good, but he needs some help on the offensive end as we move to the bottom of the 8th. 3-2 in favor of Gettysburg. Bottom of the 8th, Swarthmore down to its final 6 outs here to trail by 1. And what's been a really nicely played game by both teams. A couple of errors, two coming from Swarthmore in the late innings here, but overall, some real strong pitching on both sides, some situational hitting on both sides. We saw a long ball that came from the bat of Nate Jabara, who we'll see in this inning. We'll see Silvestri, Jabara, and Cook. Number 23 takes a strike there. One of those days where the sun's coming in and the sun goes out. Clouds are floating around, chilly. Burbank worked much slower. Layton gets that ball. He's up on the mound and ready to go. The 1-2. The outside of the plate hit to the right side. 4-3 on the putout. Here comes Nate Jabbar with the blast today. The only home run we've seen today. We have seen a triple as well, by the way. That came from Silvestri. So Jabbar looking for hit number 2. He is 1 for 3. The home run to left. He grounded out and struck out. The 0-2. Fastball. Hit to the left side. Some room over there. And out number 2 as Decker comes into foul territory. So 2 quick outs here at bottom of the 8th. And here comes Paul Cook. Cook with a couple of hits today.
Number 1, Paul Cook.
Singled back in the 2nd inning. He singled in the 6th inning. Stranded both times. Actually, it was picked off, I should say, in the 2nd inning. Stranded in the 6th. Tops one foul to the right side. There is some action in the bullpen for Swarthmore. Again, from my vantage point, it's impossible to see who it is. I can see the catcher catching the ball, but I can't see who's pitching. The 1-1. Sets up the bunt. Not a bad bunt down the first. In time, though, as Layton goes over to Siebert. And a quick 1-2-3 here in the bottom of the 8th. We're moving to the final frame. Gettysburg now 3 outs away from a win here in game number 1. It's 3-2. We're back with a new pitcher on the mound here in the top of the 9th. In comes Casey Jordan in relief of Ed Berry. Jordan, his 10th appearance. He's 1-0 on the year, a 3.24 ERA. Pitched 8 1/3 so far this year. And he's looking at 5, 6, and 7. This is Kirby in his 2nd at bat. He came in relief of Pistner. And he singled in his only at bat. One winds in for a strike. Berry deserved a little bit better than what he got this afternoon, at least up to this point. He's in a position to pick up the loss, despite going 8 innings, giving up 3 runs, 2 earned, just 4 hits. He struck out 7 and walked 1. That's an excellent line for Berry. But again, he's on the hook. When we do go back to the 9th, for Swarthmore, we will see 8, 9, and 1. We'll see Ralph Warg, Olson, and Terada Herzer. The 1-2 in the foul territory on his horse and diving but unable to get to it is Paul Cook. Lots of room here at Clothier in foul territory, both in left field and right field. 319 to the poles. 377 plus out in center field. 339 in the power alleys. Of course, you have the big, tall wall in left center into center field, where the dorm is and where all the students hang out, especially on nice days. You get a nice day, which we really haven't had. If you get a 75 and sunny day here, it gets to be a lot of fun up there in left center field. The 2-2. Fastball just misses. Jordan wanted that one. Big smile from number 10. Jordan is a sophomore from New Hampshire. 5'9", 185. This one topped, scooped up, and scooped again out of the dirt is the picking machine at first base in Silvestri. And that's an important out, number 1. Number 10 steps in, Prezioso. The left fielder, 0 for 2, did pick up a sacrifice in the 7th, which was a good one because it eventually scored a run. And that was the go-ahead run to this point that made it 3-2. And this one catches him on the shoulder. So 1 out base runner. Seen a decent number of hit by pitches so far this afternoon. A decent number for both teams. Prezioso on first base for Siebert. Number 25, 0 for 2, did walk in his last at-bat. That was in the 7th inning. The 1-0. Fastball over for a called strike, and we move to 1-1. Runner goes, a hit and run. Out to right field, and this will be an easy double play. As Prezioso was halfway between second and third when Cook picked that ball off. So a double play into right field, and we are done here in the top of the 9th. One more shot for the home team. We move to the bottom of the 9th. Swarthmore needing a run to tie things up, trailing 3-2. One more shot here, bottom of the ninth. Layton still on the mound for the Bullets, and he will face numbers 8, 9, and 1.
Swarthmore.
Layton falls behind. They need a base run on Rothwarg. The 2-0 over for a called strike. 2 balls and 1 strike. It's a busy campus day for Swarthmore. I should mention that the softball team is also home. The softball team 15-2 on the year, by the way, and they're taking on Washington College, but they're trailing 2-0 in that game in the 6th inning. So Washington College trying to pull off an upset as the count goes full, 3 balls and 2 strikes. So they're playing a couple over there. Got a great lacrosse game behind us. As that ball's bounced. It's going to be a tough play by the second baseman in the dirt and picks up out number 1. That's a nice play by Toothman. Here's Andrew Olson stepping in. Number 5 has a couple of hits today. Oh, we have a pinch hitter, actually. Just as I was mentioning Olson, number 5 steps down, and here's number 25, Emmett Reynolds,
Hitting for the Swarthmore Garnet, number 25, Emmett Reynolds.
who is also a catcher. So if we end up in extra innings, you will likely see Reynolds move into the catcher spot in place of Olson. Reynolds batting at a .244 clip this season. And he's behind the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Again, that lacrosse game, the men's lacrosse game, towards the end of the 3rd, and Swarthmore up 10-7 over the nationally ranked Bullets. So a couple of upsets on each side of us here in the baseball field. One in favor of Swarthmore, one going against Swarthmore. This one bounced to left side. Nice play by Decker. And out number 2. The Garnet down to its final out here in game number 1. And we have another pinch hitter, it looks like, as we go back to the top of the order. This is number 24, Josh Bean.
24, Josh Bean.
Junior from Del Mar, New York, steps in for Terhada Herzer. Bean 185 on the year. As Midkiff is looking for some offense anywhere he can find it. Back-to-back pinch hitters. Trying to do whatever they can to get the Mutts in the second spot. That fastball is over for a called strike. The 2-2, swing and a miss, and that will do it for game number 1. As the Garnet fall 3-2. Gettysburg picks up the win. Gettysburg moving to 4-1 in the Centennial. Swarthmore falling to 3-2. Layton gets the win. He does it in relief. He is now 2-3 on the year. We had that one big bomb, and that came from Nate Jabbar, but that comes in a losing cause. As Barry picks up the loss, a tough loss for Barry, who pitched really well, but he falls to 1-3 on the year. We'll take a break between games. We've got much more baseball to come. Please come back to the Garnet Sports Network for game number 2. I'd say first pitch in the neighborhood of 2:45. We'll update you on all the action going on campus and all the action going on around the Centennial. But for now, I'm Matt Fine. Have a great one, everybody. Hope to see you back here soon for game number 2.